My name is Gill. I'm a mother and a grandmother who's lived in the Territory virtually all my life, and I'm horrified at the probability of the living hell that our families will be left to deal with in the aftermath of hydraulic fracturing being allowed in the Northern Territory. I'm also a horticulturist and have studied conservation and land management, and I have a long connection to the bushland of the Northern Territory. There is strong evidence from all countries in the world that have allowed this type of mining that poor health, water contamination, pollution and environmental degradation has occurred as a direct result. We have already seen the result of this type of mining in Queensland, where large tracts of land have been destroyed and the Condamine River is bubbling methane gas. We are dependent on our groundwater for our survival. To risk this precious resource, the health and future of the citizens of the Northern Territory and our pastoral and tourism industries for the very short-term and questionable financial gain that hydraulic fracturing would provide would not only be extremely foolish, but absolutely criminal. To take the risk that this type of mining brings with it is like playing Russian roulette with our future health, our industries and environment, but with 5 bullets in the barrel instead of 1. There is a lack of data and understanding of the effects of climate change on our groundwater. The variability of current and future rainfall amounts and the groundwater systems of the Northern Territory are also not fully understood. And although this panel has identified the risks to surface and groundwater that could occur as a result of hydraulic fracturing, the level of those risks or how to fully mitigate them have not been determined in the draft final report. The mining industry in the Northern Territory has a history of mishaps, environmental degradation and a lack of responsibility taken for damage done once sought-after materials have been depleted. According to the example given within the recommendation of this panel, the monitoring of these proposed wells should be undertaken every 2 years for a period of 10 years and then every 5 years thereafter. If contamination of groundwater occurs between the 2 years of testing, it will be too late to put in place any measures to protect the health of those affected or prevent the environmental damage that will result. If contamination of groundwater occurs between the 2 years of testing, it will be too late to put in place any measures to protect the health of those affected or prevent the environmental damage that will result. And indeed, there seems to be no clear measures to prevent this damage should a leak occur. Also in question is how often, if at all, these wells will be inspected in years to come. Once the gas has been extracted, who will be monitoring these wells for damage in 30, 40 or 50 years? Not the mining companies, that's for sure. They'll be long gone. The amounts of water needed to carry out hydraulic fracturing operations are phenomenal, and it has not as yet been made clear how the contaminated water and chemical waste that are the byproducts of this kind of operation will be disposed of. The transportation of this water on our roads poses yet another risk. The panel imply within the report that the majority of people in the Northern Territory are okay with fracking. This assumption was based on a report by the CSIRO which found that about 57% of Territorians supported extractive mining. This is not reflective of the opinion of Territorians towards hydraulic fracturing, as extractive mining describes all mining, and whilst many Territorians may, for example, be supportive of open cut minings and such, there are clearly many Territorians who are absolutely opposed to hydraulic fracturing, as has been demonstrated by the many who have attended and voiced their concerns at forums and the record numbers that have attended protests against this proposed mining practice. It would be interesting to see how many would vote to allow hydraulic fracturing if a referendum was held. I'm pretty confident that sanity would prevail if we were able to put this matter to the vote. It is obvious that our government cannot be trusted to be transparent in regard to this proposed method of mining, as they are already advertising for overseas investors into onshore gas mining in the Northern Territory, which makes a mockery of the moratorium and shows that they have little concern or consideration for the rights and opinions of the people they are supposed to be representing and whose interests they are supposed to be safeguarding. We can't drink money, and it won't fix the problems that can and in all likelihood will occur if this form of mining is allowed. When our groundwater is contaminated and large areas of our environment are destroyed forever as a result of this proposed method of mining being allowed, our government will ultimately be responsible for the genocide and displacement of thousands of Territorians. Our Chief Minister, Mr Gunner, must listen to the overwhelming majority of Territorians who want to protect our water and environment for future generations and ban hydraulic fracturing from the Northern Territory. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, Dr Jones.
Maybe just one of clarification on behalf of those of us who wrote the water sections of the report, in particular monitoring. When you were talking about 2 years periods of monitoring, that was specifically referring to pressure testing for wellhead integrity, not for the ongoing and regular groundwater monitoring we were talking about. So,
all right. So how often would that?
At best, online monitoring, so that the data streams of monitoring parameters and groundwater would be going in every minute or 2 minutes.
Continuous.
And then full analyses every couple of months or something like that. So I just raise that as a point of clarification, because it is there are the two issues. One is how well the pressure is being maintained in a well, which relates to the strength of the casing, and then anything that might actually get out of it and go into the environment. So obviously you want to have very regular monitoring of the external environment to make sure that nothing's untoward is happening.
And how long would that monitoring go on for?
For the life of the well. And then we've also proposing monitoring after decommissioning as well on a regular basis.
But these are recommendations we're making. It will be obviously a matter for the government as to whether or not it implements those recommendations, and indeed, of course, it's a matter for the government, not us, as to whether or not hydraulic fracturing is permitted.
Yes.
So certainly monitor regularly and monitor well, if it was to go ahead.
Yes, Dr Smith has a question.
I'm just asking for a point of clarification. You referenced advertisements for foreign investors in onshore gas. Was that the government that's doing that advertising, or
yes,
if you can provide reference to that?
Document from where was it? I did write it down.
I was going to ask about that too, so I'm glad that it's been raised. I'm quite keen to get my hands on a copy of that.
Document Minerals and Energy Involvement Opportunities in Australia's Northern Territory. It was written by Ian Scrimshaw, Executive Director of the NT Geological Survey, www.minerals.nt.gov.au, and it was a group called CAUSE, or a department called CAUSE, or I only actually saw it the day before yesterday, so it's relatively new, I would think.
I was going to say, do you know what the date is on date of that document is?
No, I looked for that, and,
Okay.
and I couldn't see it on the document itself. Yeah.
All right, well, we will try and chase that down.
Yeah. See what
Do you have a copy of that document?
To be honest, it was on Facebook, but it was from a reputable source, and it was a government document.
All right, we'll try and thank you for that additional
It was quite a bit
information.
of horror within the group of people that saw this, that it's already been advertised. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
We will absolutely endeavour to get a copy of that
Yeah.
document. Thank you.
I could probably figure out a way to send you the link to that.
That would be wonderful. If you just send it to the Fracking Inquiry website,
I'm really bad,
email.
I've got to say, really bad at computer skills. I'm hopeless. I've had a big learning curve in the last year or so. but I will endeavour, or perhaps one of my friends could do that. I'm sure they've seen this document as well.
All right, well, we would certainly be very interested in getting our hands on a copy of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
No worries.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gill, for coming today, taking the time to present, and we very much appreciate what you've said. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I just hand one of these copies over?
Yeah,
I will-
just hand that to one of the, either to the lady at the back,
Yep.
or one of the
Young lady
people
here,
here, and then we will make sure that that's given a submission number and that'll be put up on the
Alright.
website.
And I will type it up and send it as well, if that's okay.
Thank you, yes. Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much.
Thank you.